How does that old saying go? Teach a man to hay and he might see drought, but send him hay and he might just get noxious weeds too? I'm Debra Murphy, and today I had the opportunity to talk to Yaremcio about some of the challenges that come with moving feed across the country.
You're listening to RealAgriculture.com. Get real, get connected.
It was a tough summer for many farmers in Alberta this year, with hay not worth harvesting or a fraction the expected yield, and it ended up meaning an influx of hay from other provinces. As the season progresses, farmers are seemingly finding cheaper alternatives.
There are people that are bringing in hay and other forages from one part of the province to the other, some of it out of province. But I think we're seeing that a lot of guys are looking at the staging of the crops. Is the oat or barley crop going to make it to harvest, or have they made the decision it's cheaper to cut some of the cereal crops or even the late germinating canola crops for silage or green feed, and saying I can afford to cut my own feed, make it cheaper, rather than buying hay for 10 cents or 12 cents a pound.
That, as mentioned in the introduction, was Yaremcio of the Ag Info Center in Stettler, Alberta. I talked to him earlier today, and he provided some sound advice for those bringing outside hay onto their farms.
If you're bringing hay in from another province or another jurisdiction, if they have a weed-free certified hay program, that's one way to eliminate the problems of bringing in weeds to your area that are not typically there right now. If you are bringing in hay and it's not under the program, most reputable hay producers are providing you with product that should be reasonably clean, but yes, you've got to watch out. If you're bringing in hay and you don't know what the weed content is, feed it in an area that you have easy access to, so that if something does show up in the following year, you have good ways to either spray out the weed or use some sort of implement to till it down so those new weeds don't go to seed. The other side is when you are feeding out on pasture or feeding out on a cropland, again, watch the areas the next year and the year after to see if any of these new weeds show up.
And even the potential for some of these new weeds to show up warrants close, careful monitoring of feeding and hay storage sites.
Scentless chamomile, common tansy, toadflax. Those are the kinds of weeds that we're finding that once they are introduced to an area, they can be trouble for a very, very long period of time because they're hard to kill. They've got very high seed production rates, which multiplies that plant in a very short period of time. And some of them, there's very few herbicides out there available to kill certain weeds. So it's all due diligence, and that's what you have to do when you're looking in this situation.
Oh, and if only we could limit your due diligence to weeds, disease, and insects. You might also have to be on the lookout for four-legged critters.
If you bring in hay from Saskatchewan or Manitoba, there could be a chance that some rats are taking a free ride and coming to your farm as well. So be aware of that situation. If you do have a problem with rats or suspect that there's rats in the hay, there is a toll-free number that you can phone in Alberta to report rat sightings.
And that number is 310-RATS. I'm hoping none of you have to use it, but it is 310-RATS or 7287. Next up on the list of things to keep an eye out for is poisonous plants.
Yeah. In some situations, some of this hay is being cut from dried slough areas. We've had an increase in the number of calls for poisonous plants being present in the hay as well, such as water hemlock, seaside arrowgrass. So when you're first rolling out some of these bales or using the bales and for feed, take the time to actually break a few of them open, inspect what's inside the bales to make sure that you don't have any poisonous plants in there as well.
And if you haven't purchased your hay already, but you are thinking about getting it from someone else, there is yet one more thing that you should inquire about, and that is any herbicides that may have been sprayed pre-harvest.
The possibility of some of this hay being cut out of ditches or in areas that are not traditionally cut for feed, there is a chance that there are herbicide residues or there's a time frame required for the plants to metabolize any herbicide that's been there. And if these plants have been cut before that pre-harvest interval is complete, there could be residuals in there. So if the hay is going to be used in a dairy situation or someplace fed to animals where they're going to be slaughtered within a very short period of time, that's a concern. And the only way you'll find out is to ask the seller of the hay.
All right, to recap, producers buying hay should be cognizant of the potential transport of pests, including rats, poisonous plants, and not yet reached pre-harvest intervals. And then, as with all feeds, there may be more to them than meets the eye.
This is a critical year for feed testing. People are buying enough hay to help extend the feeds that they have. They're going to be using slew hay. They're going to be using straw as fillers in these rations. And if you don't know the quality of the forage that you're buying, it's impossible to know how to blend it off properly with what you have on hand, be it straw, be it slew hay. If there's lower quality forages being used, you're typically going to need some sort of protein supplementation. And the best advice I can give is talk to a nutritionist, be it in the public sector or private sector. There's also the availability of buying cow bites, which is a ration balancing program from Alberta Agriculture at $50. If you want to order a copy of cow bites, call 780-427-0391.
So it's not all good, but it's not all bad either. Here's hoping you have enough clean, quality feed to get you through the winter. Once again, that was Barry Yaremcio joining me, Debra Murphy, to talk about the movement of hay across provinces this year. If you ever have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can find us on Twitter. We are at Real Agriculture, or like us on Facebook, and we're realagriculture.com. Thank you so much for joining us.